Part 21. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 201. Chapter 201, Stocking up on food and salt, second update. Looking at the little girl's cute appearance, Zhang Ziluo felt like she was overwhelmed by the cuteness. This is too cute. Beautiful and cute. He is also very smart and knows how to spend 5 cents to buy a loaf of bread. Especially her chubby face, which bulges when she speaks, is particularly cute. Zhang Ziluo wanted to reach out and knead it, but she held back. Zhang Ziluo knelt down, looked at her and asked patiently, "Do you want to eat this bread?" Xiao Mengmeng nodded obediently and said, "Yeah, it's very fragrant. My brothers all said it's delicious." As she spoke, she looked at her brothers around her. That is, the scholars of the college. Zhang Ziluo took out the last 2 pieces of bread and gave them to Xiao Mengmeng and said, "Here you go, this is what my sister invited you to eat." Xiao Mengmeng looked at the 2, tilted her head and thought for a moment, then took out another 5 cents from her pocket, carefully counted dozens of pennies, and said softly and cutely, "Sister, 2, 10 cents, here." Zhang Ziluo thought the little girl was so funny, "You still have money in your hand." The little girl patted her little cloth bag and said, "Yeah, my mother gave it to me, so I can buy something to eat." "Where is your mother?" That woman as tall as ice made a deep impression on Zhang Ziluo just by her eyes. She is an extremely calm and steady woman, very different from other women. Although I have never seen her face, I feel extremely beautiful just by looking at her figure and eyes. Xiao Mengmeng said, "Mom has something to do, and Mengmeng is very good. Whatever she wants to eat, she will buy it herself." Looking at her being so smart and sensible, Zhang Ziluo's heart softened and she couldn't help but want to give her a hug. It was very strange that she met the children in the village. She went to the town to sell bread and met some children. It was not the same feeling as when facing a little girl. "Take it. If my sister doesn't charge you, I'll treat you as my sister and ask you to taste it." The scholar who just wanted to buy the last 2 loaves of bread was too embarrassed to fight with a little girl. What's more, this is the young lady that their academy loves very much. The little girl seemed to think about it seriously and said, "But I can't get something for nothing, and I can't take things without spending money." Zhang Ziluo's mind moved and she felt that the little girl was well educated. Zhang Ziluo could only say, "In this case, you can treat your sister to something else next time." Zhang Ziluo just found a reason to give the little girl bread. The little girl nodded happily. After Zhang Ziluo sold all the bread, she closed the stall and drove the ox cart away. She was going to go shopping to buy grain and salt. The county is larger than the town and has several grain stores. But after Zhang Ziluo visited a few stores, she found that the price of food had increased by 1 or 2 cents per kilogram. How come thick noodles cost 10 cents a pound? In the past, it was 8 cents per caddy. The shopkeeper was not surprised by Zhang Ziluo's inquiries. He seemed to be asked a lot. "Little lady, it's not that the price of food in our store has gone up. If you go out and find out, it's still the same price." Zhang Ziluo thought of what Mrs. Kui had said and what she had said about food in her previous dream. Her expression changed and she said, "Why did the price increase all of a sudden? Will the price increase in the future?" The shopkeeper was stunned for a moment, but he came back to his senses in an instant. He said calmly, "Little lady, it's normal for the prices in the food store to rise and fall. We can't tell whether the prices will rise or fall in the future. If you buy, just buy it. If you don't buy it, there will be people who want to buy food later." The shopkeeper's attitude is very perfunctory and he is too lazy to explain and attract customers. As if the customer has no loss if he doesn't buy, that's not the attitude of doing business at all. Zhang Ziluo visited several food stores, and the shopkeepers and waiters in the stores almost had the same attitude. It can be seen that they are not worried about not being able to sell the food at all. And they must have gotten some gossip. Now that she knows the market price, Zhang Ziluo should buy it. Zhang Ziluo asked deliberately and tentatively, if I buy more, can it be cheaper? The shopkeeper said, little lady, it's not that I'm not cheap, we are also working for the boss. We can't change the price set by the boss at will. Zhang Ziluo's face condensed. As far as she knew, the shopkeeper had some power, so he could naturally give customers discounts. But looking at the shopkeeper's attitude, she also understood something. Zhang Ziluo no longer wasted her words and just said, bring me 200 caddies of multi-grain noodles, 200 caddies of fine noodles, 5 caddies of red beans, 10 caddies of soybeans, 20 caddies of rice, 20 caddies of corn. Zhang Ziluo bought some of everything. Actually, she wanted to buy more, but she didn't want to attract attention, so she planned to buy some in every store. Anyway, she has space and no one will notice anything. The shopkeeper was shocked when he heard the amount. He looked Zhang Ziluo up and down, and saw that she was wearing coarse linen clothes, and she didn't look like someone who could buy so much food at once. Little lady, are you sure you want to buy so much food? Zhang Ziluo nodded and said, sure, I'm going to do a small business. Shopkeeper, you can give me a cheaper price. If I buy food again, I will continue to buy it from you. As soon as the shopkeeper heard about the business, he gave up his worries. Those who are in the pasta business do need a lot of grain. Although he had doubts, he didn't think much about it. He directly asked the waiter in the store to help weigh the food, but he didn't give Zhang Ziluo any advantage. After Zhang Ziluo bought it, she put it on the bullock cart, then deliberately turned it around to make room for the grain, and then went to other grain stores to buy it. In this way, she bought more than 600 kilograms of things, including various rice, flour, grains, and other crops. Be prepared and feel at ease. And when she went to the store to buy salt, she also bought some at each point. Hard a lot of salt. Originally I wanted to save a little, but I still spent 13 taels of silver. As a result, Zhang Ziluo only had more than 6 taels of silver in her hands. But she knew that she couldn't care about money at this time, and she had to hoard food and salt. When walking back, Zhang Ziluo put most of her things in the space. There were just a few baskets and baskets outside, so that no one could see anything. Moreover, the baskets were covered with a layer of straw, so others couldn't peep into them. It was already half-afternoon when I got home. Ms. Kui felt more at ease when she learned that Zhang Ziluo had bought a lot of grain and salt, and said, just buy it back. Mom, you don't think I bought too much, do you? This is nothing, I have planned to settle down early. If there is nothing and the price of food does not rise, we will not suffer any loss by hoarding this food. If there is a war and the price of food rises, we have nothing to worry about if we have this food. I still have food and feel at ease. Zhang Ziluo said seriously, Mom, I went to the grain store and the grocery store to check. The prices of various grains have increased a bit. I asked tentatively. I guess the prices will increase in the future, but they will increase a little bit every day. You can't see it? What's going on? After hearing this, Ms. Kui knew what was going on. After having food, Zhang Ziluo and Ms. Kui should do business every day. Everything seemed normal in the town and county, but a few days later, in late April, someone entered the village and started collecting grain. End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 202. Chapter 202. What is the purpose? First update. Even in Donghe village, there are 2 large carriages entering the village. There are people going from house to house asking questions and collecting grain. It is 1 or 2 cents higher than the price that everyone knew before. The villagers also have some doubts in their hearts, but the villagers are simple-minded and have little information, so they don't think much about it. However, people in the village will ask each other to see if others are selling grain. People have come to the village to collect grain in the past 2 days. Do you sell the grain? At the end of last year, our family sold food once. Now we have just enough food for the autumn harvest. If we sell the food, the family will go hungry. But I charge 2 cents more for a pound of grain. Selling some grain at this time can also subsidize the family. Besides, seeing a lot of vegetables growing, eating more vegetables and less staple food can also fill the stomach. Don't you think it's strange? In the past, when those people came to the village to collect grain from everyone, they had a very bad attitude, just like when everyone begged them to collect grain. Now they have a polite attitude. It's a little strange. Maybe they need food. It will be May soon, and in more than 2 months, when we enter July, we will start to harvest wheat, and the grain will be available. Selling some grain will not affect us. People here in Bazhou grow winter wheat, and they start harvesting wheat in July. The corn and peanuts will be harvested later, but once the wheat is harvested, there will be food to eat. Our family has some extra grain, which we originally kept as a spare, but since the beginning of spring, the weather has been smooth and the grain is growing well, so it's okay to sell some grain. It costs more than 2 cents per pound, and the price is usually not that high. Indeed, 1 caddy costs 2 cents more, and 20 caddies costs 40 cents more. Everyone was thinking about getting more copper coins in their hands, and they were also a little excited. Usually, they collect the grain and sell it out. The people who collect the grain are picky and deliberately lower the price. Nowadays, as long as the grain is about the same, the people who collect it don't pick at all and give them a high price. This can help subsidize household expenses. No, there is nothing to be busy with now. It's okay to eat less for one day, just eat more when the wheat is harvested. Most people in the village are hesitant, but more people still want to collect more money. Everyone is willing to sell some grain if they have extra grain in their hands to last until the harvest. I would rather be hungry than have more copper coins in my hand. If the price is the same as usual, everyone may not sell it. But they were still willing to sell the grain for 2 cents more than the usual price. No, even if we don't have enough food to eat later, it's okay to go to the food store to buy a little. That's not right. Don't you think it's strange that we are harvesting grain at this time? Nothing strange about it. The people in the village discussed among themselves, and some families immediately sold dozens of kilograms of grain. Mrs. Kui happened to see the scene when she went out with a basket. She heard everyone's conversation and said anxiously, "At this time, our family does not dare to take out food." Everyone immediately looked at Mrs. Kui. Mrs. Lijiang, Mrs. Zhu, trusted her the most and said, "Sister Kui, do you have anything to say?" Mrs. Kui said, "You also know that we do some small business and need to buy noodles to make things. We went to the grain stores in the county and town to see that the prices have increased. The increase is at least 2 or 3 cents per pound. The price goes up to 4 or 5 cents per kilogram." Upon hearing Mrs. Kui's words, everyone's expressions changed and they felt a little panicked. They didn't understand what was going on, but instinctively they felt something was wrong. An aunt's expression changed and she said, "Sister Kui, are you telling the truth?" Mrs. Kui said seriously, "It's true, I won't lie to you." Mrs. Kui wanted to say that there might be a war outside, but she also understood that some things should not be said without evidence. What should she do if there is no war again? The price of food goes back up, and the villagers complain. But even so, Mrs. Kui still spoke. Because she understood that once the war came here, if the people in the village had no food to eat, the whole village would be in chaos. So she could only give a few reminders. She said that the prices at the grain store had increased, and anyone in the village could find out if they wanted to inquire, and she was not lying. As for whether to sell the grain or not, it is up to everyone to decide. Zhu's face paled and she said, "Then we won't sell grain anymore, so I feel strange." Why are they treating us so well? Just then, a steward who collected grain walked into this alley. When he heard these words, his expression changed. Sister, please don't talk nonsense. You are inciting everyone not to sell grain. We only collect grain once. If we sell grain later, it won't be at such a price. At least 1 kilogram will be reduced by several cents. Everyone, please think about it. Among the people in this village, some people don't think well of you. Some people have no food to sell at home, but they want to block others. I don't know what they are thinking. The manager stared at Mrs. Kui with a gloomy look. Mrs. Kui's face changed, her aura was released, and she said with a cold expression, you collect the grain, the villagers are free to sell it or not. I just told the truth, a few words, but you, a grain harvester, are already worried. Could it be that if everyone sells you tens or hundreds of kilograms less grain, it will have a great impact on you? I think you have some purpose. When Mrs. Kui was the wife of the Duke, she looked so majestic that no one dared to confront her. She is not afraid of attacking people. The man in charge looked at the woman in front of him and his demeanor suddenly changed, and her expression became slightly solemn. Ms. Zhu looked at the steward with suspicion and said, this is our village, and we don't tolerate you bullying people here. People in our village are discussing with each other. Why, you still have to take care of it. Let me tell you, if you bully someone in our village, don't say our village can't spare you. I can even go to the county government to sue you. Mr. Zhu saved the county magistrate's daughter because of Zhang Ziluo. Now she also knows the county magistrate's daughter, so she is not afraid. Zhu's temperament is fierce, and she is protective of shortcomings. The reason why Zhou Zheng became the chief of Donghe village and was very prestigious in the whole village was because Zhou Zheng and Zhu really considered the people in the village when doing things. In the past, Zhou Zhen's father and grandfather were also the village leaders. It's natural that you can't choose anything when doing things. Everyone also believes in them. The person in charge was very angry because of the rebuke, but he also knew that in emergency situations, he could only endure it. Don't make the matter a big deal and attract the attention of the county government. The county magistrate is currently busy with the affairs of his wife, son, and daughter, and naturally cannot care about anything else. But the stewards have been bullying people for a long time. In the past, when they came to each village to collect grain, everyone had to please them. I hope they don't lower the price or deliberately picky about the food. Actually, it was because they colluded. The grain store did not accept the grain from the villagers, they had to collect it, and the prices were fixed and suppressed. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 203. For these people who collect grain, the villagers cannot sell the grain unless they sell it to them. In previous years, during the autumn harvest, people in the village would sell part of the extra grain they harvested to get some copper coins to buy daily necessities. If the grain is not sold to them, these people will carry poles and set up stalls to sell grain. Not one of them has an ox cart, so they carry poles back and forth and cannot sell food, which means they work in vain. That's why they don't take the villagers seriously. They feel that in the end, the villagers are not begging for them. A little follower next to Guanxi said arrogantly, Guanxi Lu, why are you talking nonsense to them? Since the people in Donghe village are so ignorant, let's not come here to collect food during the autumn harvest. There are so many villages waiting for us to collect food. The person in charge snorted coldly, you are right, even if the people of Donghe village beg us, we will not accept their food. When the villagers heard this, they became panicked. In the past, they were not convinced. Why could these people set and suppress the price of the food they had worked so hard to grow? They were picky and said there was something wrong with their food. deliberately labeling good food as inferior. They tried not to sell to these people, but used shoulder poles to carry hundreds of kilograms of grain to grain stores to sell at lower prices. Going to set up a stall to sell grain. When there is a lot of grain, you may not be able to sell anything even if you set up the stall for a whole day. Sometimes it's like that when I'm busy working hard for several days. Later everyone understood that if someone comes to the village to collect the goods, no matter what the price is, even if the price is severely reduced, they will sell it if they can. That way at least you don't have to carry a pole around. Everyone knows that these people are all in the same group and have power behind them, and they cannot afford to offend them. No, Manager Lu, why is it the time has come to stop harvesting our food? Yes, we don't sell food. That's because we sold it to you last year. We don't have enough food at home, so we don't sell it out. But after we collect the food, we will definitely sell it out. No one has an ox cart at home, and they don't know how to sell the grain if no one comes to the village to collect it. Many people are still waiting to sell some food to subsidize their families and buy some daily necessities. Some people don't have much salt anymore. Salt is so expensive that they can only be bought with copper coins. When Manager Lu saw them like this, he deliberately snorted at Jiao, "We don't care. We are doing it for your own good. We come to collect food and see how the people in your village talk. This man is from your village, please don't harm you intentionally." Then Manager Lu deliberately targeted MRSQE. He was holding back his anger. If he hadn't wanted to cause trouble, he would have been slapped in the face. How dare you challenge him like that? After what he said, it's surprising that this man can stay in the village. She deliberately wanted the villagers to isolate this man and then let the villagers sell the grain to them. MRSQE's face turned pale. This man is really vicious. She means nothing now. People in the village dare not talk nonsense. But everyone understands that MRSQE has good intentions and will not blame her. You know, after spring, they worked with the Kui family and made a lot of copper coins. If MRSQE doesn't like them, she can just hire outsiders to do the work, why bother using them? And everyone is not stupid. If you think about it carefully, you can figure out some problems. At this moment, a cold voice sounded. What a very arrogant and loud tone. You won't come to collect food after the autumn harvest, aren't you just waiting to collect the villagers' food and sell it at a high price? If there is no grain harvest, how can you make the profit difference? It's really vicious to want to bring hatred to my mother. As she said that, Zhang Ziluo threw the axe in her hand directly. The axe flew directly from Manager Liu's ear and was stuck in the wall behind. The Manager Lu was so frightened that he sat down on the ground. Are you going to kill someone? This little girl was so young, and her eyes were filled with bloodthirsty murderous intent, which made him feel chilly. For some reason he was just a little scared. Zhang Ziluo clapped her hands and said, "How can you call it murder? I just think the wall behind is good, just right for my axe, right? Look, I didn't even hurt a hair on your head, right? However, I am a person with a bad temper. Sometimes if someone makes my mother unhappy, bullies my mother, or talks about my mother in a mean way, I just want to stretch my muscles." As she spoke, Zhang Ziluo held her hands and made a clicking sound, as if she was about to take action. Other villagers in the alley were simply stunned. Everyone's eyes widened, their mouths opened wide, and they forgot to react. Manager Lu and the followers he brought with him both felt the strong murderous intention in the girl. They don't want to be afraid, but their bodies tremble instinctively. The servant who was helping Manager Lu just now was so frightened that his mouth was trembling. He saw with his own eyes that the axe passed close to Manager Liu's neck, which frightened him to death. This girl is so scary. How could there be such a person in the village? MRSQE looked at Zhang Ziluo and was so moved that she almost cried. Wow, my daughter-in-law is so good, even better than my daughter. She is not only caring but also protective of her. Also, Zillow was so awesome just now. She was so excited and relieved just to see her. Mrs. Kui wanted to scream. Zhang Zilluo said, "Tell me, why are you coming to the village to collect food now?" Zhang Zilluo would never allow what the steward said to make the villagers feel dissatisfied with her mother. Her mother meant well, and she wanted to let the people in the village know. Zhang Zilluo said, "Not really, I just want to practice my skills." With that said, Zhang Zilluo got up and went to the wall to take down the axe. The manager Lu quickly got up and ran away. Zhang Zilluo kicked a stone under her feet, and the stone directly hit the legs of manager Lu and his follower. The two people fell to the ground again. Zhang Zilluo came to manager Lu with an axe and played with it back and forth on his face. "Don't worry, you can talk whenever you want. I just have the patience." The steward was frightened after a while and could only beg for mercy. "Woman, spare my life, spare your life, it was my fault just now. I don't want to hear nonsense." The manager Lu couldn't help but tremble when he saw the look in this girl's eyes. He realized that this girl really had murderous intentions towards him. He trembled with fear and said, "I also do things for others." Zhang Zilluo's axe was about to chop down, and he screamed, I said, there is a war outside. The food in Qingzhou has doubled and is still rising. We collected the food and sold it there." Zhang Zilluo squinted her eyes and said, "What else? My patience is limited. If Bizhu is affected, the food here will also increase. Even if we don't take the food to sell there, we store it in the warehouse, and when the price rises, we can still make a profit." The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 204. Manager Lu finished his words with a stuttering and trembling voice. The boss promised that this information must not be leaked, but if he didn't leak it, he felt that he would die. Even if he wants to make money, he must first have a life. This girl, for some reason, those eyes made him instinctively feel fear, as if she had been killed out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. He did not dare to look into this girl's eyes. He works for his employer, has come into contact with a lot of people of all kinds, and has some judgment of his own. Having these judgments, he can also seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. So he realized that this girl must not be messed with. When Manager Lu said these words, the expressions of everyone present in the village changed instantly. Many people were so frightened that their faces turned pale. "What, that's why? They are so cruel, but fortunately they haven't sold the grain yet. The price of food has doubled. Is this a war?" Thanks to Shiyun and Zilluo, otherwise we wouldn't know this Shiyun is Mrs. Kui's name. Yes, thanks to Sister Kui for reminding us just now. If Zilluo hadn't been so powerful, no one in the village would have known the news. The people in the village were really shocked and frightened when they heard these words. They are all a little scared. If they sell the food, they will not be able to eat enough for the war outside. They may not be able to buy food with money, not to mention that food is so expensive. There was an old lady who was so frightened that she sat down on the ground. "There is a war, what should we do? What should we do if the war reaches our side of Bizhu? The wheat harvest will be in more than 2 months. Can we still harvest wheat? How so? If I had known earlier, I would have saved more food last year. You can't sell the grain anymore." Everyone's face turned pale, they were in a panic, and they didn't know what to do. Everyone knows how scary war is, and you can die if you are not careful. There was also a stooped ant in the village who cried, "I just sold 50 caddies of grain. I sold 50 caddies of grain. What should I do? Can I still get it back?" Someone sighed and said, "She is also selling food in a hurry to raise money for a betrothal gift for her son to marry. How can I care about these things at this time? Only by keeping food in hand can I be safe." Zhang Zilluo looked at the ant and knew that her family was in very poor conditions. She glanced at Manager Lu and said, "You know what to do, right?" Manager Lu nodded hurriedly, I know. He is a smart man, he knows what to do, they can get the food back." Upon hearing this, the grain sellers breathed a sigh of relief, gave the copper coins they had collected to Manager Lu, and took their grain back. Then Manager Lu was wondering if this would be all right. Zhang Ziluo looked at Manager Lu, raised a strange arc at the corner of her mouth, stood up and left. The Manager Lu felt that nothing happened, so he breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly led the people and carriage away in despair. At this time, people in the village rushed up to thank Zhang Ziluo. "Ziluo, I really want to thank you very much." Yes, Ziluo, it's really thanks to you this time. If it weren't for you, everyone wouldn't know what to do, and they wouldn't know the news at all." "Ziluo, my aunt won't obey anyone, so I will obey you. I will believe what you say from now on." "Ziluo, everyone doesn't know how to thank you." Everyone gathered around Zhang Ziluo, wishing they could hold her hand and thank you. Look at the look in her eyes, that gratitude. Of course, everyone just thanked Mrs. Kui, who is also Yang Shiyun. Zhang Ziluo was a little uncomfortable facing such a scene. "By the way, Ziluo, what do you think everyone should do? Do we need to prepare anything? Do we still need to run, or can we hide in the mountains? But there are wild beasts in the mountains." "That's right, Ziluo, I believe you. I think you are great. Can you tell us what we should do?" Everyone is now looking at Zhang Ziluo with trusting eyes. Zhang Ziluo said, "Don't panic too much. It's hard to say whether the war outside will reach Bizhu, but it's time to stock up on food. It's best to prepare some salt." She told everyone some things that needed to be prepared. Everyone nodded seriously and remembered. As if thinking of something, Zhang Ziluo said, "By the way, the locust trees are in bloom. You can pick the locust tree flowers to make buns and make dumplings. You can also make locust flower eggs and cold locust flowers. You can cook them all." When everyone heard this, they hurriedly said, yes, go pick the locust flowers and eat them with cornbread and locust flower buns when you get back. Make more and you can eat them for a long time." "Ziluo, thank you, and thank you." An ant who had just gotten the food back held Zhang Ziluo's hand, her eyes were red, and she didn't know what to say to thank her. Zhang Ziluo said, "Auntie, it's okay. I just didn't scare you." "How could that happen? You are helping us. How can we not know the good news? You are as good as your father." "I heard that those people in Xinshan village were able to settle down safely all the way to Xinshan village thanks to your father's leadership. It is not surprising to everyone that Zhang Ziluo knows some Kung Fu, and everyone also knows that Zhang Xiangchuan knows Kung Fu. It's okay for a daughter to learn some self-protection skills from her father. Besides, if you can learn some skills these days, it's just a matter of ability." Looking at everyone's reactions, Zhang Ziluo breathed a sigh of relief. Actually, she wasn't afraid of everyone being afraid. Once fighting broke out outside, Zhang Ziluo thought she would use her skills to make everyone afraid. Unexpectedly, the reaction of the villagers was different from what she imagined. Seeing everyone sincerely thanking her and looking at their expressions, Zhang Ziluo was slightly touched in her heart. Mrs. Kui wanted to pay attention to Zhang Ziluo, but she was blocked by the villagers. Everyone surrounded Zhang Ziluo and talked in a hurry. Mrs. Kui felt like everyone was competing with her for Ziluo. She felt a little sour in her heart, but she was also happy. Everyone likes Ziluo, and she is proud and happy. After everyone was sent back, when Zhang Ziluo and Mrs. Kui were walking home, Mrs. Kui said, "Ziluo, are you really okay? Are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere?" Zhang Ziluo smiled and said, "Mom, I'm fine. Wasn't it a little rough just now? Who dares to say that you are rude? You are protecting my mother, and my mother is happy." Not only was I happy, but I was also moved, and it felt very heartwarming. Even her daughter has never been so considerate. Mrs. Kui took Zhang Ziluo's hand, and the two of them went home affectionately. By the way, do you want to tell your parents about this again? Zhang Ziluo said, let's go after lunch. I told them before that they should have stocked up some food. My father will definitely tell the villagers not to let them sell food. Zhang Ziluo also went to her parents' house to talk to her parents after buying food before. Her parents naturally believed what she said. The reason why she didn't tell the villagers before was that they might not believe her if she told her. And it doesn't necessarily mean that a war will start. It's not good to make people panic. It would be bad if Bazhu was not affected and everyone spent money to buy things and hoard them, thinking it was useless. Then they would complain later. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 205. Mrs. Kui nodded and said, that's fine. The two of them came to the door of the house. Mrs. Kui saw an old locust tree not far away with many locust flowers on it, and said, let's pick some locust tree flowers after dinner, and mother will make buns for you to eat. Mrs. Kui just wanted to be nice to Zhang Ziluo, and she wanted to do it with all her heart and lungs. Zhang Ziluo smiled and said, okay, when I come back my mother will pick some locust flowers together, and we will make buns together. Mrs. Kui said, don't worry, you still have to show your father's feet. Mother can do it alone. The two of them went home and had lunch first. After lunch, Mrs. Kui packed some things for Zhang Ziluo, and Zhang Ziluo took them back to Xinshan village. It was just after lunch, and there were people sitting under a big tree at the end of Xinshan village talking. No one in our village sells food, so why are these two people going from house to house? Be determined to collect grain. If you can, harvest as much as you can. Brother Zhang has said that it is best not to sell food outside. Once Brother Zhang says this, it means that you cannot sell food outside. That's right, everyone fled with nephew Zhang Xian back then, and they all know the way Zhang Xian nephew talks. They don't speak too clearly, so as not to be complained about later. They only give opinions, and it's up to you to listen or not. Big guy's business. In the group of people who fled the famine with Brother Zhang, there were a few people with evil intentions who refused to obey Brother Zhang, so they died on the road. It's because they are stupid and don't listen to Brother Jiang's advice. Either they will be eaten by wolves or they will suffer from the miasma. Our group of people will not sell grain at this time anyway. If we charge 2 cents more per pound, there must be a problem. The original residents of Xinshan village may not know how powerful Uncle Zhang is, and they may not listen to Uncle Zhang. People in the village are accustomed to looking at what others do. No one sells food, so 1 or 2 households who want to sell food are not sure and will hesitate. No, they are still waiting and watching, and they have not sold food. When Zhang Ziluo came to Xinshan village, she heard some men in the village gathering to discuss selling grain. Hearing that they said no food was sold out, Zhang Ziluo nodded secretly. But she also realized that her father's words in the village were so powerful. When Zhang Ziluo was walking to her parents' house with a basket on her back, everyone in the village spontaneously stopped talking and looked at her. This is Brother Jiang's eldest daughter. As expected of Brother Jiang's daughter, she seemed a little not very smart before, but now she seems to have suddenly enlightened and is capable. It is said that I was stimulated when I was a child, so my reaction was a bit slow. Now that I have grown up, it will be better. There was also an old lady who took the initiative to talk to Zhang Ziluo. Ziluo, aren't there any people in your village who go to collect grain? Zhang Ziluo grew up in Xinshan village and recognized this old lady. She said, Grandma Li, there is a grain harvester in our village, but the steward said that the war in Qingzhou has doubled the price of grain, so he wants to collect grain from our village. The food is being sold. Hearing this, several people nearby stood up quickly and came to Zhang Ziluo. Ziluo, are you telling the truth? Zhang Ziluo nodded and said, yes, if you don't believe it, Auntie, just go to our village and ask around. Besides, I went to the grain store in the town and county to buy grain, and the price per kilogram also increased by 1 or 2 cents. The ant slapped her thigh and said, "Oh, let's just say they don't have good intentions. How could they increase the price of our food so well? That's the problem." Fortunately, Brother Zhang reminded everyone, and fortunately we listened. Just say what Uncle Zhang said is right. Yes, nephew Zhang Xian will not say anything casually, whatever he says is fine. Hello, thank you. You're welcome, ma'am. It was also the steward who collected the grain who said it. We don't know the news either. After saying a few words to the villagers, Zhang Zhiluo returned home. When Zhang Zhiluo arrived home, her parents and younger brothers and sisters were picking up Sephora flowers in the yard. Everyone gathered around Zhang Zhiluo happily when they saw her. "Sister! Sister!" Everyone shouted happily. Zhang Zhiluo said, "You pick so many locust flowers." Zhang Yunzhen said, "Sister, we went to pick it after breakfast. People in the village still asked about it, so we said that locust flowers can be used to make buns." This is what Zhang Zhiluo came to tell them last time, saying that after the Sephora japonica flowers grow, they can be picked to make buns and dumplings for eating. Zhang Yunzhen and the others have always remembered that when they saw Sephora flowers, they hurriedly picked them as a family. The more people there are, the more powerful they are, so they pick a lot and can make a lot of buns. Now at home, she goes to the market and sets up a stall to do a small business. She can make a lot of money every episode and has an income. Ms. Ye is also willing to make some delicious food. In the past, I would have been reluctant to eat white bread, let alone put meat in it. Zhang Xiangchuan is making bellows, and there are some finished umbrella frames and other things beside him. There is also a small pool next to it with soaked bamboo in it. She knew that making bamboo took a long time, and it would probably take more than a month for her father to make the umbrella. Because soaking bamboo also takes time. But if you make a lot of umbrella ribs and accessories at once, if you do more in one process, you can make several umbrellas at once. Zhang Xiangchuan put down what he was doing and was about to stand up. Zhang Zhiluo hurriedly said, "Dad, don't move your feet or use any strength." Okay, I won't move." Zhang Zhiluo said, "Have you kept applying the medicine I gave you last time?" She brought over the prepared medicines when she came last time. One of them was applied on the feet to nurse them back to health, so that she could easily break the bones and reset them for her father. Zhang Xiangchuan said, "Don't worry, apply medicine every day, and drink the medicine every day." Zhang Yunchu added next to him, "Third sister is very attentive. She makes the medicine every night." Zhang Yunhua is very good at these meticulous tasks. Zhang Zhiluo waved Zhang Yunhua over and said, "Third sister, come here and I'll take a look at your face first." Zhang Zhiluo also prepared Zhang Yunhua's facial medicine and applied it twice every morning and evening. Zhang Yunhua looked at sister, his eyes sparkling. "Sister, I feel that the scars on my face have faded a bit." Zhang Yunmian said, "Yes, after sister washed her face in the morning, I looked at her face and felt much better." At this time, Zhang Yunhua's face was still smeared with medicine. Zhang Zhiluo said, "Third sister, wash off the medicine first, and I'll show it to you." Zhang Yunhua nodded and hurriedly poured water to wash his face. Whether it is medicine for Kui Hejin to heal her body, or medicine for her father and Zhang Yunhua, some of these medicinal materials are extremely precious and difficult for her to find. Those medicinal materials are not available in the market. Even if someone has them, they have already been bought at a high price. It was also thanks to Zhuang Xingen that he helped to find all the medicinal materials. But this also gave her a deeper understanding of Zhuang Xingen's strength. If you don't have some strength, you won't be able to find all these medicinal materials. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 206. Thinking of Zhuang Xing'an, Zhang Ziluo's expression changed. During this period, when she went to town to sell chili con carne sauce and bread, she went to Xinglan Pavilion every few days to give Zhuang Xing'an acupuncture treatment. Zhuang Xing'an followed her requirements and drank medicine every day and took medicinal baths every day. She also went for acupuncture treatment every few days, and he was almost in good health. While thinking about things, Ye took Zhang Ziluo's hand and talked about the family affairs. You don't have to worry at home, we remember everything you told us before. Although the price of food has increased, we still stocked up on some food and salt. We also washed and resewed our winter cotton clothes. If we were to flee in a war, we don't know when we would have enough clothes. As for the medicinal materials, we don't understand them either, so we don't dare to buy more. Zhang Ziluo's expression changed, and she suddenly thought of medicinal materials. Don't worry, parents, I will go to the town hospital tomorrow to buy some medicinal materials and prepare some backup medicines. I will just bring some by then. When Mrs. heard what her daughter said, she felt even more sorry. This always makes you worry, mother, in my heart. Zhang Ziluo interrupted Ye's words and said, Mom, look at you, don't say such things. Only when you, Dad, and brothers and sisters are doing well, can I feel at ease. Well. But now that your father's feet are healed, he can do more things and is no longer limited by his feet. Zhang Yunchu seemed to have thought of something and said, by the way, sister, people from the village have come to collect grain in the past 2 days. The villagers came to ask Dad for his opinion. Dad said it is best not to sell grain outside. The villagers should have listened. Zhang Ziluo said, when I came here, I heard some discussions among the villagers. Manager Lu, who went to our village to collect grain, I got him to say that the grain price in Qingzhou has doubled, and it is expected to rise again. They plan to collect grain from here at a low price and sell it there. Now everyone in the village has heard it, they won't sell it out. It won't take long before the nearby villagers will know about it. The villages are not far from each other, and they all have relatives with each other. If there is any news, everyone will tell them quickly. She estimated that people in Xingshan village would know the news in the middle of the afternoon. Ye's face changed. I really didn't expect that food prices could rise so much. Zhang Yunzhen frowned and said, the government doesn't care about the price of food. Who can afford to buy food if it rises like this? Zhang Yun wrote, I am so hungry that no matter how expensive it is, everyone will buy food to eat. And there will probably be a lot of looting at this time. Zhang Yunzhen felt very uncomfortable when he heard the news, but he could do nothing. I can only think that the whole family is doing well now. Fortunately, we in Bizhu are fine for the time being. Zhang Yun wrote, if there is chaos in Yun, Bizhu will also be in chaos, and the government offices will not be able to take care of much at all. The most important thing is that if the commander of the guard station colludes with others and does not care about the safety of the county, then there will be a problem. Zhang Ziluo looked at Zhang Yun with admiration and said, second brother is very good. He also knows this. Zhang Yunchu was praised by his sister, and he felt a little embarrassed and said, my brother-in-law told me these things, so I remembered them. He knows more. Zhang Ziluo's expression changed. It turned out that this was what Kui Hejin had told Zhang Yunchu and the others before. Zhang Ziluo said, Mom and Dad, there's no need to panic, just do whatever you need to do. Ye said, don't worry. At this moment, Zhang Yunhua also washed the ointment off his face, revealing his original appearance. Zhang Yunmian looked at her carefully and blinked her eyes. Third sister, your face has turned pale. I don't know if I can use the ointment. Although Zhang Yunmian is still young, everyone loves beauty. She touched her face and felt it was a little dark, and she wanted to whiten it. In fact, Zhang Yunmian's skin is very good, but she is exposed to the wind and sun while working at home, so her face is a little tanned. Zhang Ziluo touched Zhang Yunmian's hair and said, "When you get older, I will prepare some facial cream for you that can whiten and beautify you." Speaking of this, Zhang Ziluo suddenly looked at her. Could she make a whitening cream and sell it? But think about it, the cost of ointments prepared from medicinal materials is too high. If the price is too high, it is estimated that not many people will buy it. She had gone shopping in the county before, and the rouge and gouache shops in the county were not expensive. Unless she makes some cheaper ointment, in that case, the effect will not be very obvious. Furthermore, facial ointments are different from ointments. The color of ointments does not matter as long as they can remove scars. Besides, when she prepared the medicine, she injected it with wood-type supernatural power. The facial ointment should be smooth and transparent when applied to the face, not like mud. Zhang Ziluo thought about these, thoughtfully. But there is a war outside now, and if anyone knows the news, they probably won't be in the mood to buy these beauty products. So she went back and figured out how to develop these things. Zhang Yunmian was happy when he heard this. Then I'm not afraid of getting tanned now. Anyway, I have a way. Zhang Yunhua looked at Zhang Ziluo nervously. She was really afraid that the scar on her face would not change. She also wanted to get rid of the scars so that she would no longer be afraid of being looked at strangely or commented upon when she went out. Zhang Ziluo looked at Zhang Yunhua's face carefully, touched it lightly with her hand a few times, and said, "It's much better, it's not so obvious anymore. Keep applying the medicine and it will be completely better." Hearing what Sister said, Zhang Yunhua smiled shyly, but her eyes were bright, showing that she was very happy. A sister said that if it can be cured, it will be cured. Yes said, since applying the medicine, Yunhua has become more talkative. I think if he gets better, he can change his temperament and stop being so introverted. Zhang Ziluo said, "Don't worry, mother, third sister's face is fine." In fact, Zhang Yunhua is now introverted because of his low self-esteem. His scars have been removed, he is more confident, and he has become more talkative as he gradually exercises. Besides, the face painted by Zhang Yun is good-looking, with an oval face, a sense of softness, and a typical beauty. Zhang Ziluo had a conversation with her parents at home and then went home. When she returned to the village, she found many villagers gathered by the river, and everyone was climbing trees to reach the locust flowers. Some people took out the ladders at home and put them under the tree, and climbed up to reach the locust trees. There are piles of locust flowers on the ground. The children all thought it was fun to pick locust flowers, and they jumped up and down next to them, looking very excited. There are many locust trees and locust flowers in Donghe village, enough for everyone to eat. When Zhang Ziluo returned home, she found that there were many sephora flowers in the yard. "Mom, you went to pick locust flowers, didn't you drop them?" The locust trees in the village are relatively tall, and Zhang Ziluo is really afraid that Mrs. Kui will fall. Mrs. Kui was chopping meat at home. When she saw Zhang Ziluo coming back, she explained, "I didn't pick this, people in the village picked it and sent it over. Many people came to send it. I said it was enough, and I will confiscate the others. Let everyone take it back." Zhang Ziluo knew that the people in the village were simple and honest, and everyone was aware of it. "Mom, why are there still salted duck eggs?" Mrs. Kui reacted and said, "Oh, that was sent by your Aunt Wang. I don't want it. I have to give it to you. I'm right. It's thanks to you that I got the food back." Aunt Wang was the one who almost cried after selling 50 kilograms of grain in the morning. Zhang Ziluo helped her get it back. Zhang Ziluo sighed, most people in the village are very honest. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 207. Mrs. Kui said, I originally said we didn't need it. We can pick it ourselves, but everyone said it didn't take much effort. They picked a lot and they had to give some to us. Most people in the village have this temperament. You have helped them, and if they don't repay you a little bit, they will feel bad about it. That's fine, the Sephora japonica flowers don't cost any money and have no impact on everyone. Zhang Ziluo thought of the pure nature of everyone in Donghe village, and her heart felt warm. Well, let's make locust flower buns at night. Mrs. Kui smiled and said, I have already kneaded the dough. It should be ready by evening. After lunch, Mrs. Kui hurriedly kneaded the dough. The noodles will definitely be ready in 2 hours. When making steamed buns, it is natural to use yeast bread, which is soft and delicious. Zhang Ziluo nodded and said, I'll wash the Sephora japonica flowers first. Zhang Ziluo sorted out the pile of Sephora flowers piled in the yard, and then took out some to wash. After cleaning, blanch the Sephora japonica flowers over a fire, take them out quickly, squeeze out the excess water and leave them aside. Mrs. Kui had almost chopped the meat and asked, Ziluo, should you chop these Sephora flowers into pieces? Zhang Ziluo explained, Mom, no need, just mix it with the meat for a while. When we make buns, we don't need a thin filling like dumplings. You don't need to chop the meat too finely. Mrs. Kui looked at the meat on the chopping board and said, then such a small piece of meat should be enough. After Zhang Ziluo finished cooking, she went to the vegetable garden in the yard and pulled out a few green onions, washed them, and brought them into the house to chop them into pieces. Mrs. Kui said, let me cut it. Zhang Ziluo nodded. She stirred the Sephora flowers and meat together, and started to add salt and other seasonings. Mrs. Kui quickly chopped the green onions and put them into the basin. Pour in the jiang jiluo together and stir to mix the filling and seasonings evenly. I made a big pot of stuffing so that I could make more dumplings. It just so happens that this weather can be used for storage. In this era, there is no refrigerator, so there is no way to store things. If there is a refrigerator, the buns can be frozen in the refrigerator. It will be ready in a while. Mrs. Kui exclaimed just by smelling the stuffing, it smells so fragrant, and it must taste delicious too. It's not wrapped yet, you can smell it. Mrs. Kui said, of course, the flavor you mixed is fragrant. The fragrance filled her every breath, and she began to look forward to eating Sephora flour steamed buns. But it's true that our family hasn't made steamed buns for a long time. At this moment, Mrs. Kui really wants to eat steamed buns. I still remember the willow bud buns you made in February, they were also delicious. It was then that Mrs. Kui realized that willow buds could also be used as vegetables. These Sephora flour buns definitely taste good too. Zhang Ziluo's expression moved. Time passed quickly. It had been 3 months since she came to Kui's house. Zhang Ziluo was talking to Mrs. Kui and mixing the stuffing. After the dough is ready, 2 people will put the board in place and make the buns together. After wrapping the buns, it's time to steam them. Not only the Kui family is making buns, but many other families have picked locust flowers and are preparing to make buns. Some people are reluctant to use white bread, so they eat it with cornbread or multigrain bread. Some people only make steamed stuffed buns with vegetarian fillings, while others who are willing to add a little meat will add some. The Li Zheng family is also making buns. Zhu's youngest son, Josiah, saw that his mother only put a little meat on it and said, Mom, can you put more meat? The steamed buns are delicious with meat, Zhu said, if only before, mother would have put more meat on you, let you have a good meal. But haven't you heard? There is a war outside. I don't know when there will be a war here, so we have to save some food and stock up more food. I don't know if we will hide in the mountains by then. Josiah was a little scared when he heard this. Mom, is it true? You really know how to fight and you have to hide in the mountains. Then if we hide in the mountains for several years, what will we eat? Zhu was also taken aback. It's not like there have been wars outside for several years, right? Zhu was actually a little scared. But she still consoled her, children, don't think so much. Go wash your hands and help mother make buns later. Many people in the village are feeling a little heavy. They are also afraid of fighting or needing to hide. But I picked a lot of Sephora japonica flowers in one afternoon, and most people were preparing to make Sephora japonica buns or Sephora japonica dumplings. Thinking of eating delicious food, everyone temporarily forgot about the war outside. Some people don't think about it at all. We have said that there is a war in Qingzhou, and we won't be able to get here for a while. It's time to eat and rest. Don't worry about anything else. In the evening, smoke rises from the village, giving people a sense of tranquility and peace. Zhang's Hiluo burned the firewood to steam the buns. The heat seeped through the pot lid, and the aroma of the buns also spread out. Zhang's Hiluo thought to herself, this is the smoke of fireworks. The steamed buns are almost ready, and Kui Hejin is back. Mrs. Kui was cleaning the yard when she saw Kui Hejin coming back and said, I'm back. Let's eat something delicious tonight. The buns are made with Sephora flour and stuffed with dill. It smells delicious. Mrs. Kui is very excited when she thinks about eating delicious food. Kui Hejin nodded, is everything okay in the village? What can happen? Don't worry. Hiluo is here. Mom is fine. You don't have to worry. With her daughter-in-law by her side, Mrs. Kui feels full of security. At night, the whole family sat together and ate Sephora flour steamed buns. They all felt warm and comfortable after eating them. Mrs. Kui was amazed, don't tell me, these locust flour buns are so delicious. They have a unique and delicious taste. They are different from other dishes. Hiluo, you know better. If you had known it, we could pick locust flowers to make buns last spring, but it's a pity that no one knew about it at that time. Yummy, really delicious. Zhang's Hiluo smiled and said, well, it's quite delicious. She likes the taste too. You can only eat Sephora japonica steamed buns in spring. Reminds her of some memories from her previous life in modern times. Kui Hejin also thought it tasted good and ate an extra bun according to his appetite. Many people in the village also make steamed buns, and they are full of emotion when eating the locust flour steamed buns. Mrs. Zhao saw her two grandsons enjoying the food and said with a smile, that kid's Hiluo is very capable. If she hadn't told her, who would have known that Sephora japonica is a good thing? There is also the Niu family. She saw her son eating happily and said with a smile, is it so delicious? Shan Mao ate the buns, his mouth bulging, Mom, the buns are really delicious. It tastes better than the buns you made before. Niu had already eaten a bun and said, the main reason is that the buns made from Sephora japonica have a unique taste, so the buns are delicious. She didn't put in a few pieces of meat, but the taste was just different. Even her head, Lu Kang, ate 2 extra buns. People in the village were very happy to eat the Sephora japonica steamed buns, and they were also grateful to Zhang's Hiluo. Of course, Zhang's Hiluo didn't know this. When she went to bed that night, she had another dream. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyu and Candy. Chapter 208. When Zhang's Hiluo went to sleep, her dreams were very confusing. She fell asleep in a daze. She didn't know why, but she followed a mist and gradually arrived at a place. It is also a huge residence. There were 2 big lions at the door of the house. She raised her head and looked up. The plaque on them read Wei Fu. Wei Fu. She has heard of the surname Wei. Kui Hejin told her about the 6th girl of the Wei family before. So this is General Wei's mansion. Zhang's Hiluo looked at the door and felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Suddenly a force brought Zhang's Hiluo into the house. Not long after entering the house, Zhang's Hiluo saw a little girl. She is still the little girl I saw that day, she seems to have grown up a little. Zhang Ziluo looked at her appearance carefully, why she always felt that she looked a little like her when she was a child. It was a little dark at this time. But the little girl was squatting on the ground and didn't know what to play with. The stones in her hand were placed back and forth on the sand table. Zhang Ziluo's expression changed. Could this be a marching formation? At such a young age, you already know the art of war? It was just that she seemed to be mumbling to herself. Zhang Ziluo listened carefully and heard what she said. Save brother, save brother. Suddenly Zhang Ziluo saw a mouthful of blood spit out from the little girl's mouth, and the blood spattered on the sand table and stones. It was strange. Suddenly, Zhang Ziluo realized that this was not a strange metaphysical method of saving people, right? Zhang Ziluo felt a sudden pain in her heart, and then woke up suddenly. Hearing the sound, Kui Hejin quickly stood up and lit a candle. Ziluo, are you dreaming again? With that said, Kui Hejin took out a clean towel and gently wiped the sweat from Zhang Ziluo's forehead. The movements were careful and gentle, and when she looked at Zhang Ziluo, her eyes had a tender luster. Zhang Ziluo slowly came back to her senses, thinking about the scene she saw in her dream, thoughtfully. Do you think the brothers of the sixth girl from the Wei family are still alive? Kui Hejin made a move with his hands and his eyes became deep. Why are you talking about this all of a sudden? Zhang Ziluo wanted to say that she dreamed about something related to the Wei family. This is not the first time. Last time I dreamed of the little girl and her two brothers. Zhang Ziluo's lips moved. If she said it, Kui Hejin would think she was strange and confused. Besides, she didn't tell Kui Hejin about her ability to dream and predict and avoid danger in advance. She had concerns. I just suddenly thought of fighting. That day you told me about the sixth girl of the Wei family, and I thought of it. Kui Hejin explained softly, at that time, all the bodies of the Wei family were collected and returned to the capital. The emperor also sent people to personally investigate. They all died on the battlefield. Kui Hejin coaxed Zhang Ziluo in a warm voice, okay, stop thinking about it and go to bed first, okay? Don't be afraid, the war will definitely be quelled. Zhang Ziluo turned to look at Kui Hejin, why do you say that? Kui Hejin said quietly, in a chaotic situation, the one who wins the hearts of the people wins the world, and someone will find a way to calm the chaos. Hearing what Kui Hejin said, Zhang Ziluo always felt a little strange, but she couldn't think of anything for a while. Under Kui Hejin's comfort, Zhang Ziluo fell asleep again. She thought she would sleep peacefully, but she still had a dream. This time she dreamed that the war had spread to Bizhu. Some people could not receive food, so bandits plundered it. Some people resisted and they killed them with butcher knives, and the blood stained the ground red. Moreover, the moves used by these bandits and the knives and boots they wore did not look like knives at all. They did not look like bandits, but rather like trained soldiers. When she woke up the next morning, Zhang Ziluo always thought about what she had dreamed about in her sleep, and she was in a trance. While having breakfast, Mrs. Kui saw that Zhang Ziluo didn't look right and said worriedly, Ziluo, did you not have a good rest last night? You don't look good. Zhang Ziluo shook her head and said, it's okay, Mom, I slept well last night. Mrs. Kui looked at Kui Hejin again and saw that his expression was normal. Her expression suddenly changed and she couldn't help but scolded, you said you don't know how to cherish Ziluo because you are torturing her. Zhang Ziluo was drinking porridge, and when she heard these words, she choked. Ahem. As soon as Zhang Ziluo coughed, Kui Hejin quickly reached out and patted her back gently. He even poured her a glass of warm water and said softly, drink some water first. Zhang Ziluo's face felt slightly hot. She didn't even dare to look at Kui Hejin's expression. It's really a sin that my mother misunderstood Kui Hejin so much. But she and Kui Hejin haven't consummated their marriage yet, so my mother probably doesn't know. If you knew about it, you would probably be worried. In fact, it's better to misunderstand it first. It means Kui Hejin has been wronged. Seeing that Kui Hejin knew Zhiluo was nervous, Mrs. Kui's face softened a little. Are you still not feeling well? Hearing the gentle and mellow voice in her ears, Zhang Zhiluo's heart trembled. She raised her head slightly and met Kui Hejin's eyes with twinkling stars, as if there were tiny pieces of moonlight flowing through them. They were very beautiful and charming. Let people indulge in it involuntarily. Zhang Zhiluo's eyelashes trembled and she whispered, "It's okay, I just joked accidentally." Kui Hejin asked carefully, "Well, drink slowly and be careful when it's scalded." After eating again, Kui Hejin looked at his mother's eyes, could only pinch the center of his eyebrows, and responded, "Mom, it's my fault, I will pay attention next time." This is such a misleading statement. Zhang Zhiluo's face became even hotter, and she wished she could find a hole in the ground to crawl into. But she lowered her head and pretended to drink porridge and didn't know anything. That's right. You should take good care of your own daughter-in-law. I told you that Zhiluo is very popular. Don't you know that when you go to town to sell bread, those ladies think that Zhiluo is my daughter, they say how nice the young man in the family is, and they also want to turn Zhiluo into their daughter-in-law and granddaughter-in-law. Yes, what a beautiful thought. Zhang Zhiluo hurriedly said, "No, really not. Just a few words of greeting." After breakfast, Zhang Zhiluo packed up her things and drove the bullock cart to the town. Kui Hejin also went to school together. Zhang Zhiluo first sent Kui Hejin to Shi Mo school, and then went to Xinglan Pavilion to give Zhuang Xinggan acupuncture. When I went there, Zhuang Xinggan was already waiting. "Miss Zhang is here." Zhang Zhiluo nodded, "Young Master Zhuang." As usual, she gave Zhuang Xinggan acupuncture treatment. This is also the last acupuncture. After the acupuncture, Zhang Zhiluo took Zhuang Xinggan's pulse and said, "The poison in Mr. Zhuang's body has been completely eliminated and his health is no longer serious. From now on, he only needs to drink the medicine on time according to the prescription I prepared. After 2 months of drinking, his body will be completely healed." Zhuang Xinggan said gently, "Thank you very much, Miss Zhang." He himself understood that if it were not for Zhang Zhiluo, he might have died. "Young Master Zhuang, you don't have to be polite." Zhuang Xinggan took out a box with a lot of silver in it. "This is the medical fee for Miss Zhang." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Space Doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 209. Zhang Zhiluo was stunned for a moment. So much money. Although she needs money now, a gentleman loves money and gets it in a wise way. Zhuang Xinggan helped her find so many precious medicinal materials before. It is convenient for her to cure Kui Hejin, her father, and her third sister. Just those precious medicinal materials, each flavor may be worth thousands of gold, not to mention that it is time-consuming, laborious, and hard to find. So she can't be greedy. "Mr. Zhuang, I can't accept the money. The medicinal materials you helped me find are enough for the consultation fee." Zhuang Xinggan looked at Zhang Zhiluo's clean and stubborn eyes and whispered, "That's all right." After a moment of silence, Zhuang Xinggan took a deep look at Zhang Zhiluo and said, "I'm leaving." Zhang Zhiluo was startled and slightly surprised. "Let's go, where are we going?" "Back to the capital." Zhuang Xinggan shook his head slightly and said, "Go to the Western Chu Kingdom?" Zhang Zhiluo looked at Zhuang Xinggan's expression and her heart trembled. Is Zhuang Xinggan actually from the Western Chu Kingdom? With such an identity, he actually trusted her to tell her. Zhuang Xinggan looked at Zhang Zhiluo's shocked eyes and understood that she was very smart and could definitely guess something. Zhuang Xinggan looked through the window at the distant place outside, with a misty and complicated look in his eyes. He seemed to have a lot to say, but said nothing. He took out a jade pendant and said, if you come to Western Chu in the future, if you have anything to do, you can go to the local Exiled medical clinic in Chujing and give the jade pendant to the shopkeeper. Not only in the Western Chu kingdom, but also in this place. If you have anything, you can come to Exiled Medical Center to ask for help from the shopkeeper. When Zhang Ziluo heard this, she felt that this jade pendant looked quite valuable. It is also equivalent to a kind of token. Zhang Ziluo guessed that Zhuang Xing'an's identity must be extraordinary. She came back to her senses and said, this jade pendant is too precious. She doesn't intend to accept it. Besides, Zhuang Xing'an should have a special status. If he accepts the jade pendant, it means he will be involved in trouble. Or a whirlpool of power struggles. That is not what Zhang Ziluo wants to see. Zhuang Xing'an said, the jade pendant is a dead thing. I am lucky to meet Miss Zhang here. Zhuang Xing'an also insisted. I'm about to leave, and I don't want to not have the chance to see Miss Zhang in the future. At this moment, Zhuang Xing'an's eyes were full of complex sadness. Zhang Ziluo's heart softened and she accepted it. Then I will keep it first. If young Master Zhuang wants to take it back later, I will return it to young Master Zhuang. Zhuang Xing'an smiled faintly, and there was absolutely no reason to take back what he had given out. As if thinking of something, Zhuang Xing'an couldn't help but remind Zhang Ziluo, the country of Yun will not be peaceful in the future. Miss Zhang, protect yourself. Zhuang Xing'an knows her abilities, so there is no need to worry. However, he still said, if you have anything to do, come to Exiled Pavilion to see Dru. Good. Zhuang Xing'an tapped her fingers on the tabletop, as if she wanted to say something more to Zhang Ziluo, but when she really wanted to leave, she didn't know what to say. I just hope they can meet again in the future. When Zhang Ziluo went downstairs, she happened to see Jian Yunyan in the medical clinic. Jian Yunyan was even more excited when she saw Zhang Ziluo. Ziluo, it's great to see you here. I'm thinking of going to find you in a few days. Zhang Ziluo smiled and said, I see you look much better. Why do you want to find me? Jian Yunyan said, it was the medicine you prescribed for me. I took the medicine and I felt better, so I wanted to find you. I can't ask you to help my mother and brother take care of themselves. I think the medicine you prescribe is much better than that prescribed by doctors outside. Yes, it's better than the doctors in the city. I finished drinking the medicine I took before, so I'm going to take a few more to drink this time. Indeed, Jian Yunyan felt that her health was much better since she took the medicine according to Zhang Ziluo's prescription. She feels that she can sleep peacefully every day and has an appetite for meals. She could clearly feel that her health was much better. Even her parents and brother said she no longer looked haggard. She seems to have gained some weight. Ziluo, you are really amazing. I don't even know how to thank you. She used to be prone to random thoughts, and she was very depressed, but she feels that she no longer thinks randomly. Zhang Ziluo said, as long as it works well. Let me check your pulse first. Jian Yunyan quickly stretched out her hand. When she looked at Zhang Ziluo, she blinked with trust in her eyes. She can't trust anyone else now, so she only trusts Ziluo. After checking her pulse, Zhang Ziluo said, well, your health is much better. If you follow this prescription for another month, you won't need to take any more medicine. Jian Yunyan breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing this. At this moment, the medicine boy also grabbed the medicine and handed it to Jian Yunyan. Jian Yunyan pulled Zhang Ziluo and said, Ziluo, you can go to my house to play. I happen to have a lot of things to say to you. Even my brother wants to thank you very much. Zhang Ziluo raised her eyebrows, and suddenly thought of the young man she saw at the county government gate before, who was Jian Yunyan's eldest brother Jian Yunsai. Zhang Ziluo thought of her dream last night and that their county would also be affected by the war. She nodded and said, okay, I'll go with you to see if it will cause any trouble to you. How could it be? My mother and brother both want to invite you to play in the house, but the enemy has not been resolved before. We are afraid of getting you involved and putting you in danger, so I have never dared to go to you." Upon hearing these words, Zhang Ziluo's expression changed and she said, "So the enemy has been found." Jian Yunyan and Zhang Ziluo had already walked out of the medical center while they were talking. She looked around and saw that no one was watching, and then whispered, "Well, I found it. It's exactly what you said. Let's get on the carriage and talk first." Zhang Ziluo said, "My ox cart is still here." The medicine boy sent them out and said, "Don't worry, Miss Zhang, the ox cart will be placed in the backyard of our hospital. We will take good care of it until Miss Zhang comes back to pick it up." Zhang Ziluo nodded, "Then I'll trouble you, little brother. Miss Zhang is so polite. Our young master's family has told her that Miss Zhang is our distinguished guest and we must treat her well." In this way, Zhang Ziluo felt relieved. She and Jian Yunyan got into the carriage. The female guard drove the carriage, and they headed towards the county government office. Jian Yunyan couldn't help but said, "I didn't expect you, Ziluo, to know the young master's family of the medical clinic. I heard that their young master's family is very mysterious and cannot be contacted by ordinary people." Zhang Ziluo explained with a smile, "Maybe because I know some medical skills, we just happen to know each other." "That's right, your medical skills are so good, the young master will definitely look at you differently." Jian Yunyan said, thinking of what she had not finished saying before, "Ziluo, you really guessed it right. Following the clues you provided, I really found the problem. The rickshaw puller Ding Changzhu was indeed bribed, but the person who harmed my eldest brother behind the scenes was really related to He Muqiang. It's just that the person who contacted He Muqiang was his mother, who has not heard from him for many years." Zhang Ziluo raised her eyebrows. "That was really the case?" Jian Yunyan said, "My eldest brother also suspected Ding Changzhu and He Muqiang before, but nothing was found out. Thanks to what you said, I told my brother, and my brother asked people to investigate He Muqiang's mother. It's really the mastermind behind it was found." The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 210. Zhang Ziluo was not surprised at all. Zhang Ziluo could also feel from Jian Yunyan's few words before that Jian Yunyan's eldest brother Jian Yunsai was a smart man. Jian Yunyan looked at Zhang Ziluo's expression and said, "Ziluo, why are you not surprised at all?" Looking at Zhang Ziluo's expression, she felt that everything was just as she had guessed, so calm and calm. But even she could never have imagined that her eldest brother's classmates would harm him, and that there would be such a relationship behind it. Zhang Ziluo said, "It's not that it's strange, but based on the information you provided, the only one who can doubt him is him. But according to his situation, he should flatter your brother instead of harming your brother. If he has a motive, we can only attack him. When his father died, his mother disappeared. If he was alive, there should be a connection. You don't know about it at all. This is a problem." Zhang Ziluo can only say this. It cannot be said that she dreamed about the scholar and the coachman who conspired to murder Jian Yunsai. Jian Yunyan admired Zhang Ziluo even more. "Ziluo, you are really amazing. I wish I were as smart as you." Zhang Ziluo touched Jian Yunyan's hair and said, "Don't think too much. My brother thinks you are very smart, and he also said that he would let me have more contact with you after the matter is resolved." Jian Yunyan smiled as she spoke. She felt that her brother saying good things about Ziluo made her happier than praising her. Zhang Ziluo didn't ask what happened next, but Jian Yunyan wanted to tell Zhang Ziluo, He Muqiang's mother was pretty and scheming. She entered Qingzhou and worked with a steward in the prefect's office. The prefect was a jinchi in the same discipline as my father in the early years, but for some reasons, he has a grudge against my father. Zhang Ziluo said, "So he used his status to put pressure on the superiors to prevent your father from getting promoted, but he didn't want to kill your eldest brother. Jian Yunyan clenched her hands into fists and said angrily, "This man is just a villain. He has taken corruption and bribes, and even used disaster relief food. But because there are people above him, no one can touch him, let alone my father. My father didn't want to join those people, so he became a county magistrate, but he was suppressed because he didn't care. It was not easy for my father to be a county magistrate. Other county magistrates have connections, and it's easy to get promoted through the 3-year performance appraisal, and some funds for building embankments and walls can be allocated from the higher authorities, but it's very difficult for our county. My father wrote letters and went to find them in person. The officials above are useless. Every year when I go to the top to report on my performance during my performance appraisal, I will be made things difficult for me, and I will be placed in the shabbiest house. My father didn't say this, but when I was a kid, I wanted to go outside and take a look. My father took me and my brother there, and I realized how difficult it was for my father. She has known about her father's difficulties since she was a child. Her father can only do everything by himself, but no matter how capable his father is, sometimes he feels powerless. So she always told herself to be sensible and not to cause trouble to her parents and eldest brother. Her eldest brother has worked hard since he was a child in school, and even helped his father handle some political affairs. Her father's hope lies in his eldest brother. He hopes that her eldest brother can pass the exam and not be suppressed or burdened by him. After listening to this, Zhang Ziluo could get a glimpse of the current situation in the officialdom of the court. The water was very deep and dark. Zhang Ziluo said, "There is a war outside now. It's actually quite good for you, your parents, and your eldest brother to stay well in the county." Zhang Ziluo thought to herself that if the dynasty changes and a wise emperor ascends the throne, it will not be too late to take the scientific examination. Her parents both have some understanding of the current situation and do not allow her younger brothers to study and take exams. Jian Yunyan nodded and said, "Well, Ziluo, you are right. As long as the family stays together, there is nothing to fear. My dad also said that there is a war outside, so let my eldest brother settle down first. My eldest brother is also practicing writing with his left hand." A flash of light flashed across Zhang Ziluo's eyes, and she always felt that Jian Yunyan's eldest brother was a talent. "Your elder brother can change his mentality." Jian Yunyan lowered his voice and whispered in Zhang Ziluo's ear, "My elder brother was sad at first, but he cheered up quickly. However, my elder brother said that sometimes it is okay to show weakness to others. To paralyze the enemy, you must learn to hide your strength and bide your time." Zhang Ziluo's eyes showed admiration, and she couldn't help but think of Jian Yunsai, who was weak that day. That look would really paralyze the enemy. "Have your enemies been dealt with?" Jian Yunyan nodded and said, "Well, the coachman Ding Changzu was dealt with. He Muqiang's mother died, He Muqiang fell off the carriage and broke his leg. As for other things, my elder brother didn't tell me. By the way, your eldest brother's body." Jian Yunyan's eyes turned red. "My eldest brother's health is still the same, and he doesn't get better after taking medicine. He still has chills. I know that my eldest brother pretends to be fine in front of my parents and me. But I know that he always has trouble sleeping, and he is getting thinner and thinner. Ziluo, I believe in your medical skills. Can you help my brother take a look?" Jian Yunyan looked at her with trusting and pleading eyes. That is a look of firm and unreserved trust. Looking at her with such eyes, Zhang Ziluo's heart was slightly touched, and she said, "Then you have to make your elder brother willing to trust my medical skills and let me check my pulse." Jian Yunyan hurriedly said, "Of course my eldest brother trusts me. My health has obviously improved. The doctor found it incredible after seeing it. Of course my eldest brother and my parents trust me, but they have repeatedly told me that the previous enemies have not been resolved, so they cannot involve you." Zhang Ziluo was slightly touched. "Don't worry, your brother will be fine." With the wood power, she can also help heal Jian Yunsai's hand. Jian Yunyan was so happy that she wished she could hold Zhang Ziluo and cry. Ziluo, you are so kind. Jian Yunyan didn't know why, but she felt a convincing sense of security in front of Zhang Ziluo. All her emotions and thoughts can be exposed in front of her. Zhang Ziluo patted her back and comforted her for a while. Soon the carriage arrived at the county government office. Jian Yunyan took Zhang Ziluo into the living room and asked someone to notify her mother and her eldest brother. My father should be dealing with things outside right now, and he will probably come back very late. My mother and eldest brother are here. Zhang Ziluo nodded. Jian Yunyan personally poured tea and snacks for Zhang Ziluo. Yunyan, don't bother, just sit down for a while. Jian Yunyan said, it's okay, I don't find it troublesome. Since my eldest brother's accident, I spent a lot of money, and the manpower in the house has been reduced by half. Now I only have one maid by my side. Jian Yunyan was afraid that Zhang Ziluo would mind, so she explained. Zhang Ziluo shook her head and said she didn't mind. She didn't have any maids at home either. She comforted Jian Yunyan and said, therefore, when heaven is about to entrust a person with a great responsibility, he must first strain his mind, strain his muscles and bones, starve his body and skin, deplete his body, and mess up his actions. Therefore, tempting his heart and forbearance has benefited him. Nothing can be done. At this moment, a clear voice sounded, the girl is so talented.